But on the ear, let me read this off for just a minute. There's three parts to the ear. There's outer ear, middle ear, and inner ear. And the outer ear is from the structure on the outside all the way to the eardrum. This is called the tympanic membrane right here, that little clear area. So this tympanic membrane separates outer ear, or sometimes we call it external ear, from middle ear. So if you're behind the eardrum back here, you're in middle ear. If you're on this side of it, you're on the external or outer ear. So the outer ear consists of this structure here. That's called the auricle, or you can call it the pinna. Some books even call the whole thing the earlobe. But it doesn't matter, but that's the outer structure. This is the external auditory meatus, is the channel going in. So the auricle and the external auditory meatus are the only two structures in the outer ear. Then you get here to the eardrum right here. So behind this little tiny space right here is the middle ear, also called the tympanic cavity, behind the eardrum, that little bitty space. This is the eustachian tube, and it runs from the pharynx right here all the way up to the middle ear. That's your eustachian tube. This is the tube that gets blocked up when you have colds, and the reason for this tube is to equalize pressure from outside to inside the eardrum.
Is it also called the auditory?
It's also called the auditory tube. That's the old term for it. You can call it that if you want. Most of the doctors now, they call it eustachian tube, but that's the same tube. Auditory eustachian is the same thing. So in the middle ear cavity, you have three structures in the middle ear. You have the three bones, and the one that's attached to the eardrum looks like a little club. That's called the malleus. The middle one is the incus, right here, and the last one is broken right here, and this is called the stapes. It looks like a little stirrup. So if I ask you on the test, what do you find in the middle ear? That's it, just those three little bones. So malleus, incus, stapes are the three structures in the middle ear. So what we do then is the stapes right here, it looked like a little stirrup, it was all here, attaches to a membrane, and the membrane is called the oval window. It's a little thin membrane of tissue. It's underneath the stapes. You can't see it, but it's underneath there. So the oval window separates the middle ear from the inner ear. So if you're at the stapes, you're in middle ear. If you go underneath the stapes and go through that oval window, that thin membrane, then you're in the inner ear. So all this here are inner ear structures. So if you had an inner ear infection, it'd be in here. A middle ear infection would be in that little middle part behind the eardrum. That's otitis media, is a middle ear infection. So in here, you have two major structures. You have the semicircular canals. These are for sense of balance. And you have this big structure we call the cochlea. And the cochlea protects the organs of hearing that are called the organs of Corti. So what we actually hear with, and here they're represented as pink and blue, but they're little hair cells. They're inside the cochlea. The organs of Corti, there's a fluid that circulates through here, it bends those hair cells, we can detect sound. So we detect the lowest, or the highest frequencies down here at the base, we detect the lowest frequencies up here at the apex or tip inside. So if you had lost low frequency hearing, you're almost deaf, because that means you've affected it clear up to here. So we always lose high frequencies first when you lose hearing. And it progresses up this way till the lowest frequencies are up here, we hear. So that's the cochlea. This is the auditory nerve or acoustic nerve. You can call it either one you want. This runs to the brain. So it sends information from both the cochlea and the semicircular canals to bounce to the brain. The big base that I'm holding right here, between my thumb and index finger, that's the vestibule, is the big expanded base. Remember, vestibule means space or cavity. The little tiny round circle here that's blue, that's the round window, and it's in the inner ear. That's a pressure relief valve to release sound waves and pressure to the outside so we don't damage the inner ear. It's just a little membrane. The two windows, this is round window, underneath here is oval window. So they're just little thin membranes, and this one separates, oval separates middle from inner. The round window is for a pressure relief valve for the inner ear itself. So that's the round window right there. And then I think on the other terms, well, you know, we didn't talk about the eye, but the medical terms you have to know for the ear, otitis media is just a middle ear infection. That's a middle ear. And remember, cerumen is earwax. And that's basically it for the disorders here. But eyes, we had conjunctivitis, glaucoma, and cataracts were the three diseases I gave you for the eye. So an overproduction of fluid in the eye is glaucoma. So if we produce too much aqueous and vitreous humor, it increases pressure, that's glaucoma. If we get clouding of the lens and tissue forms on the lens, that's cataracts. And conjunctivitis is an inflammation of the sclera, the outer layer of the eye in front. It makes it look pink. So pink eye is a common name for conjunctivitis, but on the test, you have to call it conjunctivitis. You can't call it pink eye. But so that's pretty much, I think I've answered every question I put on the test already. But between the ear, the eye, and the brain, you'll have about 50 questions. And then
Are there any more parts of the ears?
I might say to you on a card question, name the parts of the middle ear, and you put malleus incus stapes, or name the parts of the outer ear, you could put auricle and external auditory meatus, and then the inner ear is basically the cochlea and the semicircular canals. But yeah, you could. I might ask you that. And where they're located, so if I said something like, if I said to you on the test, what separates middle from inner, you would put oval window. Or if I said what separates outer ear from middle ear, you put tympanic membrane, that's your eardrum. So that kind of thing.
Is this the only ear model? Or
That one and the one right there, I'll use that little one. Like this is the same exact thing, but it's just a smaller. That's an older model, but it's. I'll use probably one of these and a couple of those on the test for parts.
For some reason, it's not on there, so the snow cord is a corcula or whatever.
The cochlea? Yeah, that's the snake. That's this one right here. That's this. And that protect. Its function is to protect the organs of corti. That's its actual function. Stick that back there if you want.